And our final speaker, Dom, is the Principal Quality Lead at Jaguar Land Rover. Dom is going to be talking about using AI to enable quality.
The guys mentioned driverless cars. I haven't got a driverless car with me, so they won't let me have one for work. So yeah, first off, obviously thank you to you guys for coming back.
You're welcome.
Max Bond as well, and Andy. A lot of pressure, kind of going last. And shout out to Andy Collins, who's there, one of our principal software engineers at JLO, put my name forward for this. And this idea of kind of enabling quality, enabling development is something we're quite passionate about at JLR. So when Andy spoke to me, the idea of how we're using AI to do that, or can use AI to do that, seemed like a natural fit. You then start to doubt yourself, but then I saw, the American Secretary of Education called it A1 rather than AI. You think, actually, I'm probably going to be all right, actually, if that's the case. So I'm going to talk about why I think it's an enabler, why it's meant to be kind of embraced rather than feared, kind of as the guys talked about there, what that looks like within JLR, how it fits within our goals, and some of the practicalities and challenges of how we're using it. So yeah, there's going to be lots of JLR imagery because more pictures and fewer words, and that's for, well, I say striking a balance with the car on its side. I actually took that picture myself when we were on an experience day. So yeah, striking a balance. So I think on one side you've got this idea of, so you're here to kind of take my job, kind of what the guys were alluding to there, and that's an actual genuine quote from a client that I worked with like 8 or 9 years ago when we were asked to come in and kind of do some of the stuff that Sandhya talked about around automation, and like they were quite worried really. Then you've got the other side again. It's probably speaking to the heart of what you guys were talking about, but like Copilot will do it all for me. But the idea of junk in, junk out, and how will you know? It's easy to you might say do this, or if you the idea if you follow a recipe or anything, if you're just following verbatim, how do you know if it's actually going to be like any good? And I think that sweet spot in the middle is kind of what I'm talking about there. It's like I can focus on the things that I enjoy, that challenge me, that add value, and that idea of that intrinsic motivation, the drive to do something because you think it's interesting or challenging, absorbing, they're essential for those high levels of creativity that we need kind of in all our work. So using AI as that role augmentation tool enables us to focus on the things that allow us to be more creative and strategic, and we can gather those data-driven insights, and we get quicker, more informed decision making. So an example, you mentioned test data. It used to be a pain. It's a lot easier now. You can say, give me a list of surnames that are from all over the world, and you can start testing if you're data validation and all that kind of thing. You mentioned Playwright. That was something I had a mess about with the other day. It's like, give me a Playwright framework that can run a UI test, run an API test, ingest data from a CSV, and connect to a GitLab pipeline. And there you are. And then obviously it's on us, and I'm going to kind of repeat the word that kept coming up there. It's context. Like that GitLab YAML won't work within our pipeline straight away. How do you then adapt it and improve it and take it on to the next step? So yeah, you get these POCs in seconds, but yeah, how do you know that it's right? And actually that data in the end was a convert. Like they were working in a very risk-averse industry where data integrity was paramount, and that was their skill. They knew it inside out. It was to do with the prison service and prisons really. So a bug could lead to being called up in Parliament and stuff. But this person, there wasn't much that they didn't know about the data and how it was used and how it interacted and all these different kind of things. And we could really leverage that and elevate what they were doing and remove the manual regression they were doing and say, look, you can be the key driver for making all this better for us. So within JLR and in our Manchester office, yeah, we're on a mission really. We're trying to, and these are our we work in like the chapter model, and we've got some centralised expertise in JLR. We work with partners and service integrators that are all over the world, and a key challenge on that is to ensure that these teams possess the skills to give us the outcomes that we want as JLR. So we're looking to enable teams, and that's a key word for us, is enable them to build high quality software, and that's through kind of self-serve assets, best practice, innovation, and we want to put that greater focus on quality and less focus on testing. Does that make sense? Fewer tests, but kind of better quality. And without those clear standards and governance and access to those expertise, then we kind of open ourselves up to kind of inconsistencies, inefficiencies, and missed opportunities. And it's the same with AI as well. So what we want to do is bring that holistic view over. You could bring in a partner and they will work with all the best intentions in the world if I bring them in. A colleague of mine will bring in another partner to deliver something, but if we're not joined up, then we're going to end up with two different things. And for us, there's that, and then that consistency is around the developer experience. So how developers how they feel, how we remove that cognitive load, how we can use AI to enable them again to do what they're good at. That entire workflow from if we can speed up the setup for them, if we can speed up documentation, generating documentation, outputs, increasing their productivity, increasing their happiness. Like these, we can use AI to really leverage that. But on the back of that, we need efficient workflows, clear communications, and kind of streamlined processes. So AI can give us that what and that how, but I don't think yet it can give us that why. And again, the idea of context, being context driven, your objectives, your techniques, your deliverables are driven by your specific situation. And as Sri mentioned, if that's been okay on a greenfield, you can feed that in, but on AI doesn't know why your product owner is worried to deploy, because they don't know that they were stung in the past by something that you get from conversation. Like humans can understand the competing priorities and the context behind them. We can take ambiguity and we can create clarity by applying critical analysis. And humans can tell that compelling story and we can take it forward. But quality holistically needs all these things. We need to be, we need the speed, we need the things that AI can give us, but we need the human element, the empathy, the understanding, that culture, that environment. And we're taught here, got the idea of skills mastery, like reducing that barrier to entry for people as well. Good example within our space is contract testing. It's something we talk about, it's something teams kind of struggle with. But again, go into Copilot and it'll give you, here's an open API spec, give me some provider and consumer tests, and then bam, bam, there you go. And that gives you something that you can then feed into teams that they can leverage. But if teams didn't know what it was or struggled with it beforehand, they're not instantly going to know the answer from what an AI gives them. But also it allows us to build them initial first steps. So kind of diving into a bit more of the human element. So this is our JLR purpose. You probably think that's a bit of a wishy-washy. Most company purposes aren't really, but so I guess that's ours, is live the exceptional with soul. And I think we can all agree that, Sri mentioned that was the example I thought when I thought about exceptional, that it's diagnosing cancer earlier, which is just like mad, and that clearly is exceptional. But without getting into an existential theological debate about soul, like within our context, it's within JLR, it's what makes you you. It's like how we show up, how we work together, our integrity, our collaboration, and like I say, it's the relationship, the empathy, the things that I don't think AI has yet. And it's that caring about why we're building something. So we can care on the why, and then we can use AI to do a bit of a what and the how. And one of our values in JLR is about customer and customer love, and can AI love our customers? Again, I don't think it can. I don't think AI can have that empathy understand why someone's annoyed with their delivery of a car was late, or as Sandy mentioned, how websites going down. If anyone tried to buy Oasis tickets and couldn't, can AI understand why that's kind of annoying? So I think that's where we fit in, and that's where we can kind of understand what our offering is, and how we can contribute more with less, essentially. Now, JLR wants, and I think needs AI to be carbon net zero by 2039. I guess the sustainability and carbon neutrality of AI is for another day, but when you're a company that make cars, then, swings and roundabouts, I guess. And pioneering technology and digital services, not just within JLR, but we're part of the Tata ecosystem, which goes into all over the world. So how can we feed into that? And I think that's where we could use AI to kind of really elevate ourselves and kind of kickstart that. But also JLR wants to be, it'll talk about being emotionally compelling and unique and being a brand, and that cars like that and views like that we try and market. But also it talks about enhancing experiences, and they'll talk about modern luxury and every engagement being a personal interaction, all very people focused. And it's, for us, I personally think that's how we can focus more on those personal people interactions and spend less time doing, if you're so inclined, less time doing the repetitive actions that might not excite you, that might, and if they do, great. How can you use, Sri talks about LinkedIn. If you want LinkedIn, as well as seeing amazing stories about where people are using AI, you don't have to look very far to find an argument about the role of test in the world and all these different kind of things. And AI doesn't care about that, it's totally agnostic. If you want it to build your framework, it can do. If you want it to generate 4,000 Icelandic names and email addresses so you can copy and paste them into a UI manually, it will do. It won't answer that question, it doesn't care. How can you use it to accelerate yourself and bring that enjoyment, reduce that cognitive load on yourself? So within JLR is massive. It's a global business. We've got about 40,000 employees. A lot of it based in the UK. We've got global supply chains all over the world, and we need AI to progress. In fact, we need AI just to, stay still, essentially, when you can think of some of our competitors. But we can't just turn it on like a tap and open it up to everyone. Like Sri said, a driverless car that ends up in a wall makes a lot of headlines. So we need that governance to do things in the right way and make sure that we're enabling all these people all over the world, but also doing it in a safe and secure place so people feel confident in buying our products and our cars. Otherwise they'll just go to someone else. So within our process, there's a governance forum that anyone can submit to, and on that we'll talk about the risks around privacy, information security, legal, ethics, misinformation, disinformation, architecture, whether it all fits into our overall strategy. And if they're happy with it, then we can start to talk about using proof of concept and going into projects. And they take that very seriously. There's some red lines that they at the minute are immovable, and if you tick a box and say yes it does this, you'll just get shut down straight away. But in other areas we're running with it, and that idea of rubbish in, rubbish out, that inconsistent process will lead to inconsistent and, for us, potentially catastrophic results within a car. But also, people usually have the best intentions. People want to deliver stuff for the customer, so they might think, if I can use AI, it'll make me quicker. But in recent weeks, the news around M&S, Co-op, Harrods, and all that is why this is important in this we might think this governance is slowing us down, but actually it's building the foundations. You know, we talk about whether AI is in its infancy and that kind of thing. But whilst people are still learning and coming to terms with it, like, we need those structures in place to kind of sustain ourselves. And we start by, we share these challenges with our business partners, suppliers, and it's about actually solving problems, not just using AI for AI's sake. Like, what is the problem that we're actually trying to solve? And kind of, So for us, it's using it all within our brand reputation, but we want to bring life to it, but in kind of a responsible manner. So we kind of talk about the benefits. So, you know, remove the blockers, productivity. You know, allow people to focus on the things that they can bring value to. What are the things that the customer is actually willing to pay for? Gives more time for problem solving, creativity. That again increases a person's impact. So removing those frustrations associated with repetitive tasks. So it gives can give people the idea, you know, the autonomy, mastery, purpose. You know, that drive, intrinsic motivation. These not in order. I guess quality should have been first, really, if I'm doing my job properly. But you get increased time for problem solving and that testability element of things. You know, put more emphasis on defect prevention, and we mentioned there, lessen that barrier to entry that prevents teams from instilling the latest techniques. I'm sure most people have had the conversation of, we didn't have time or we didn't have money to do that thing. Let's kind of, how can we use AI to lessen that conversation? We've talked at length about how fast it can be, but again, that consistent developer experience with a reduction in that variance to your team, gives them the time to be context driven. And yes, AI is a cost, but actually within the team we're reducing the cost because we can be faster, we can be better. You know, less time is spent on waste. That idea that we think, like, within like the idea of lean, we say we only spend 5% of our time actually delivering value that the customer will pay for. So how can we use AI to increase that number? So this all sounds well and good, but to do this, I think the people in this room, we need to be leaders and advocates for this approach. I'm sure the fact that you're here, you're probably in that middle camp, that you care about quality and striking this balance, but we need to be both bringing those people who are going off and doing it for everything, kind of bring them in a little bit, but then also be empathetic to the concerns of the people who are like, I don't know where I fit in with this, and actually help them to understand what is their value, what they can offer. I guess it all depends on your company and your risk appetite, but yeah, we also need to make sure that it's used in the right way.